And we are live. Welcome back to Sunday Live at 5, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here yet another week to bring you episodes of real estate issues, news, views, comments that can help you on your real estate journey. My name is Nadine Mendez, and I am a broker and founder of Amazing Journey Realty, where we are committed and driven for your success. So, before we get into it, I just want to ask that once you have benefited from this, or if you have been benefiting from this, please share with others. Do like, share, subscribe. For those who haven't yet subscribed, it's not too late. Please subscribe and share with your friends, share with a neighbor. All right. Now, on a serious matter, just to highlight as a real estate broker and what has been happening in California, it's really heartbroken to see what has been happening, the loss of lives, families being displaced and homeless, or it doesn't matter what the situation is. It cannot be easy for anyone to lose memories. I've seen older individuals who have pretty much retired and expecting to have enjoy the rest of their life in their dream home. And to see that destroyed, it is really heartrending. My prayers, my thoughts, my heart goes out to each and everyone who's directly affected by the devastating fires in California. And we pray that in spite of how difficult things are, that restoration is coming. And, it will take some time. However, stay hopeful for better days to come. All right. So, with that said, I we have to still stick with the work, the reason why I'm here as well, which is to bring you some information that can help you on your real estate journey. Today, our topic will be buyer and seller agencies. So these are real estate agency agreement or contracts between a real estate broker and a buyer or seller who will become their clients moving forward. So essentially, what is real estate? What is an agency or contract? It really is a relationship that is set in a specific format between a seller and a real estate agent, or a buyer and a real estate agent. It really sets out expectations. It makes everything clearer to both the seller, the client, and the agent as to what is expected of them. Now, there are two main types that we will be discussing this evening. We have the listing agreement, and that is somewhat universal. It's something that we're all used to. We see it every day. And then the buyer's agency agreement. Now, that has been in existence for a long time as well, but it wasn't practiced until recently, since there has been a lawsuit with the National Association of Realtors and other major real estate companies. The laws or the way we do things is expected to be more formal, and it's with your best interest in mind. So essentially, well, I'm going to talk a bit about this listing agreement, which is the seller's agreement with agents, and then I'll delve a little deeper with the buyer's agency agreement, because it is somewhat new in terms of awareness for the general public. All right. Mind you, it has been in existence forever. I have been practicing it way before this change. And it is not something that is, to be feared, for want of a better word. All right. So let's get into it. So let's start with the listing. This is a seller's agreement. So for sellers, as most of you may know, and some of you who will go into contract to sell your home in the near or medium to long term, to sell your house, you would likely enter into a contract that is pre-designed, is prescribed contract. A real estate agent is not allowed to formulate his or her own contract. So typically these contracts are generic. We negotiate, however, the commission with you, as well as the timeline. So there's no contract that should be dictated to you as to what will come within that. I mean, what is expected within the contract. So again, these are prescribed prescribed contracts that is used across the board within a specific jurisdiction. So New Jersey has its own rules, regulations within which we must operate in order to enter an agreement with a seller for the sale of his or her home or house, right? And certain guidelines are stipulated within that contract so that the seller is fully aware as to what it is that he's getting into. And again, we cannot alter anything per se, but we negotiate the terms within the contract, all right, such as the commission, what you pay. Now, within that contract, before the changes, and these changes took effect August 17 of 2024, what happened, we as the listing agents would explain as much as possible to the seller what is expected of them. Again, it's negotiated. But the commission, there was a point where the commission that was negotiated with the seller, whatever percentage that was, there would have been a cooperative side within that commission that was presented to the seller. And that portion would be split if a buyer's agent should bring a buyer to that contract for that transaction to close successfully. Now, what happened over the years is either there was misunderstanding, misconception, we don't know. But there was a lawsuit that dictates to the fact that sellers felt like they were paying both sides, and there had to be some curtailing in that regard. Now, I won't delve too deep into it because it's public knowledge. Google it, you'll see it, and you'll understand where that lies. So, going back to listed agreements, essentially, both the seller, all parties that is on the deed or the title would sign that contract with the listing agent with timelines that we would have executed your specific goal, right? Straightforward, because we have been practicing it, no issue with that. It's just that we as agents need to explain and for you to understand the parameters within such. Now, the buyer's agency agreement, since August 17th, 2024, it came into full effect and it was ratified and approved in November of 2024 that this is a practice from here on when we are dealing with the typical or average buyer as brokers, right? So essentially, what is happening, or what should have happened, what should have happened all these years but wasn't practiced, is that like a listing agreement, there was a buyer's agreement. The buyer's agreement has essentially different expectation, conditions within which both the agent and the buyer, what is expected of them, etc. All right. Again, it was not practiced for decades. It wasn't being practiced. So buyers were taken out, and presumably of the thought or knowledge that they were being shown homes and we would represent and negotiate for them, but it was free. The service was free. All right. So a lot of, I would say, lack of or ignorance essentially was out there, lack of knowledge to some extent, but same as ignorance, right? The same as ignorance. So lack of knowledge, misunderstandings took place over the period, and it was compounded. So what's happening now? If an agent supervised by his broker were to take a buyer out to see properties, that buyer and that agent would have to sit down, discuss the parameters to the contract, which is an agreement, and negotiate on the compensation, negotiate on timelines, just as with a seller's agreement, right? And negotiate any other aspect that is connected to the contract. Now, most jurisdiction in New Jersey, they've pretty much finalized their the contract. Everything, still, areas are still being tweaked, but for the most part, it is pretty robust, the contract that now exists that protects both the buyer as well as the agent, and, set clear guidelines as to what it is that we should do in any given contract. Now, if we as the brokerage or agent should take you to see other listings, all right, take you out to see other listings, it means therefore that we would have had to get into a contractual agreement. And there are two types of contractual agreement, all right, and I'll explain them shortly. So we would have had to get in a contractual agreement before we decide to hi, I see you. So before welcome, good to see you. So before we get into to take you out on tours to see properties and get into transactions, we must sign a specific document. This arrangement, this oh my gosh, buyer's agreement. All right. Now, if you go to, as the buyer, without representation, decides to go to someone's open house, all right, if you go to an open house of a listing, you don't need to sign a buyer's agency agreement in order to see that property. The agent can show you that property. Just bear in mind that that agent is representing the seller, all right? They're representing the sellers first, okay? There's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with going to an open house, seeing the property, and if you're interested and if you're willing to be into that agreement without representation, or if you wish, there are other types of arrangement that you can get into with the listing agent. It's called a dual agency, where the listing agent at first representing the seller, but if you are interested as the buyer in that specific property that that agent is showing or at that open house, then you can get into what is called a dual agency agreement, disclosed dual agency agreement, where the agent will explain to you the terms of representing both the seller as well as yourself, but they have to keep a neutral stance in that specific transaction. All right, so just bear that in mind, that there is still possibility of working directly with that listing agent, but it has to be where you know exactly what it is that you're getting into. All right, so that's the buyer's, so you don't need to sign a buyer's agency agreement in that regard. But if that listing agent, say you didn't like that property, and you like that listing agent, and you wouldn't mind that listing agent to take you to see other properties, at that point in time, that listing agent for the property within which you met them, you would have had to sign a buyer's agency agreement for them to take you to other properties. Hope that makes sense. All right. So what is in it for you? First and foremost, bear in mind that you should not be forced or feel forced, coerced into getting into any agreement. You need to understand as the buyer, what is it that you're getting into? Take your time, ask questions, do your own research. If you feel comfortable with a specific agent, then you may, by all means, choose the agent to work with you, because essentially they're representing you, making your life a little easier in finding suitable properties, negotiating for you, etc., and for you to have a smooth transaction. Remember, real estate is more complex than what you see on certain channels, all right? It is not something that you go and look at 3 homes and it's, you're dancing away and it's all good. You come back and you get these stories and you're all good. No, it can be very complicated throughout the entire process. So be careful who you choose and make sure you're comfortable with the person you decide to work with. Now, there are 2 types of agreement that you can get into with that agent, the agent you choose to work with. There is the exclusive agency agreement, and then you have the non-exclusive agency agreement. Now, the exclusive agency agreement essentially means that if you're working with that agent, that's the only agent you're working with. Just as how you contracted the services of a doctor, right? You go to one doctor, you're diagnosed, and they treat you, right? It's similar with working with one broker or agent, right? Agent broker. All right. So you work with one brokerage, and they will take you from beginning through to end. It means, therefore, that you can, because we know information is at your fingertips, right? You can, if you're seeing a property, for example, you see something showing up online, you would send that or update your agent accordingly. You work exclusively with that agent. All right, from beginning through to the end, and the contract will explain all of that. Now, you also have the choice of signing, getting into a non exclusive agreement, which means you can work with more than one agent, not recommended for the same town. It's usually practiced, like, for example, investors for some, we see that quite often with investors who may have agents in different cities, all right, or different states. Okay, I'm in the tri-state region and it's pretty close, but still, right? Within, say, New Jersey, where I am, maybe Northern Jersey, that specific investor or buyer wants to see what's happening in Northern Jersey. They perhaps, if they so to do, and the agent doesn't do entire Jersey, as I do, as my office does, you could contract an agent in Northern Jersey and contract an agent in Southern Jersey, but you have to ensure that it's a non exclusive agreement. Non exclusive. So there's a difference, but there lies the difference between the two. All right. So just to highlight those, um, again, part of what you will see within the contract is a compensation package, and that means you as a buyer may be subjected to paying a commission. So bear in mind, commissions are negotiable between yourself and the agent, and sometimes you may get into a contract where it is already agreed with the seller, and the seller is aware, mind you, that is kind of changing. So don't expect that to always be. However, there are contracts still where the seller may cover a portion of or all of whatever you had negotiated with the because it's already agreed upon by the sellers and the listing agent. All right. So again, everything is still fluid and it's dynamic. What I'm saying right now could be it's not exhaustive, and it is subject to change. All right, but bear this in mind as an overview. Hopefully, that's clear enough. Now, there are several advantages in signing a buyer's agency agreement. Remember, I said it has always been in effect. It's just that it wasn't widely practiced, right? But it has always been in effect. Now it's firm, particularly for most states. New Jersey is one where we must sign an agreement. And essentially, it protects your interest, your best interest. When you have something in writing, you know this agent represents you, particularly with the exclusive agency. We are held accountable for your need. All right. There are clear expectations. You know exactly what you're getting. And if it is that the agent is not meeting whatever was within that contract that both of you had agreed upon, then you can point it out to them and ask, can you improve upon this? Depending, right? Just bear in mind, we're in different markets, etc. At this point. All right. So hopefully this will be somewhat of an eye opener. There's more to it. Your agent, your specific agent, should be able to guide you in that regard. And if there's any questions, feel free, reach out anytime, and I'll be happy to update you, advise you. And if you need services within New Jersey or within the peripheral or anywhere in the United States, I should at some point be able to assist you in that regard, right? With that said, I'm going to conclude for today. It is meant to be short, to the point, for your benefit. But before we go, next week, I think I'm going to speak a little further on agency. I think no, next week I'm going to deal with listing agents, listing agency agreement, which is listing agreement, and also try to get into, now that it's coming closer to spring, getting you, the seller, prepared for to list and sell your home. All right, so hopefully we'll be able to deal with that briefly. And that concludes what we have for today. But as always, I have a little nugget to share with you of motivation. All right, so I take this, it's from Barbara Johnson. And essentially it says, allow your dreams. Now, I think I did this last week. That's not the one for you. It's another one. And this actually is connected to my religion. I'm a Christian. Remember, I'm not biased with any religion, but I am a Christian, and therefore I'll share this at this point. So it says here, be joyful always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. And this comes from 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 16 through 18. All right. So this is the week's motivation for you. No matter your circumstance, stay prayerful, give thanks always, and, stay hopeful for greater days to come. And with that said, I wish you all an amazing and blessed week. Take care until. See you next Sunday for another episode. Oh, and before we go, draw back. Remember to like, share, subscribe with your friends, neighbors, anyone. Thank you again for your attention, and see you soon. Bye. Okay.